Welcome, friends. This is our fourth class in the series of Introduction to Mindfulness. And today we're going to be talking about working with difficult emotions, which I think is quite appropriate at this time. Of course, I won't have all the answers for you. It's a very large, deep subject, but I hope to be able to give you a couple of tools that I think you'll find helpful at these times. But before we do that, I was thinking we'll come and sit for a minute, just let people come and get settled and come into this present moment, into this space. And then we'll have some time for reflection and sharing how last week went, how your practice went or didn't. If you continued with your mindfulness task or any reflections you wanted to share. Then we'll move into the discussion around emotions and the two tools that I want to provide. And again, have some time for sharing and reflection and thoughts. Then we'll do a sit and then close it out and wrap it up to get ready for the next one. So again, let's just come into this present moment, feeling grounded and stable with our feet, maybe touching the floor, your legs, the chair or cushion, your hands, resting gently in your lap or on your thighs, your lids closed or resting down gently. Just coming into this present moment with kindness and generosity, a willingness to be with what is. Breathing in any calm, ease. Breathing out any stress or anxiety, just for these few moments. Coming into this present space. Coming into this present moment. Noticing sounds, letting them go. Noticing your breath in and out. Just letting the day behind us, let it go. All right, that's good for now. Welcome everyone again. I see some new people have joined. Oh, would anyone like to share how their week went? If there was anything you wanted to share about your practice, or if you didn't have time to sit, or any insights you may have found. We'll just go around the room. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Wonderful. All right, well, let's dive into emotions then. So we know they're real, they're raw, they're human. They're there, they're part of us. And sometimes they become overwhelming. You could get stuck in some kind of sadness or grief or some past event, maybe a breakup or the loss of a loved one or a pet. Or we may be fearful for some event in the future, maybe what will happen when the restrictions are lifted from this pandemic, or just some future event, like a business meeting or interaction with a family member. These can be triggers for us, and we can get stuck in these modes of feeling. It can be difficult for us. So we are bringing a sense of our awareness and mindfulness so that we can create some distance and some clarity, and not have that overwhelming feeling of being totally out of control. So it's clear emotions drive our understanding of the world. It's not just through our physical senses that we make sense of our experience. It's not just through our vision, hearing, taste. It's also through our emotions. And they can sometimes be overwhelming. Scientists have found that we have 6 primary emotions: happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, and disgust. Happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, disgust. I think that just about covers it. And when we get charged with any of those emotions and they overwhelm us, they tend to be a lens or a filter through which we view many other experiences in our life. So we could be feeling sad about one thing, but when that becomes overwhelming, then many of the things go to support that, go to validate that feeling. And that becomes a belief. It's no longer just a feeling, it becomes a pattern, a behavioral pattern. We get caught in this cycle. So the idea is, with mindfulness, can we bring that same sense of awareness and curiosity and compassion to it so that we can gather a little distance, create a little space, and not have it overwhelm us? And we do so with that compassion. That's really the key here, because when you're aware of things, if you can't bring a kindness to it, you can bring a judgmental mindset, which really just compounds the feeling and the experience. So again, we can do all of these things, but we do want to bring a sense of compassion to it. The other thing scientists have determined is that we as individuals have a set point for happiness, a kind of level set where we live most of the time, and we may swing back and forth in other areas, but that we have a set point of happiness. And 50% of that is genetic. There's nothing we can do about it. But the other 50%, we do have some control over. And of that remaining 50%, 10% is based on external circumstances, such as fame or money or where you live. But as we've seen from many TMZ articles or People magazine articles, being happy isn't dependent on being famous, wealthy, or beautiful. It's sad, but true. We've also seen examples where people who have none of those things, they might live in a hut in the forest, are quite happy, quite content. So we know that that 10% is not where we need to focus. The other 40% is dependent on our attentional behavior. And as I've said in other classes, we have control over our attitudes and our actions. So in the way that we can use mindfulness to emphasize that well-being of the other 40%, that's what we hope to do here. And one thing we can keep in mind is that emotions really are energy in motion. They're transient. They move through us, almost like the weather. It can be stormy, or cloudy, or foggy, or rainy, or sunny. But they change many, many times in a day. So if we can bring that awareness to it, then we don't necessarily have to get stuck or overwhelmed. And that's really key. Just knowing they're transient, knowing also that maybe we can use this time to investigate them. And so that's what the tools will help us do. But it just depends how charged you are. So the 2 tools that I'm going to suggest, one is for mildly irritating or frustrating situations, and the other is really for more charged and more emotional ones. And so the first one is called S.T.O.P, and it's an acronym. It stands for stop, take a breath, observe, and proceed. So for me, I use it quite often when I'm in line at the grocery store, and I have inevitably chosen the slowest line possible, and I see everybody checking out and leaving the store with hundreds of groceries, and I've got like 2 things, and my line is, I'm an hour behind, and I just take a breath. I go, okay, this is just going to be an extra 5 minutes. I observe, what am I really getting charged about? And in doing so, I can contain it. I can capsulate it so that it's not overwhelming. And I just go, oh, okay, it's just going to take a few more minutes, and then I proceed. But this is really a tool you can use anywhere. You can use it in a meeting, because it doesn't take very long. If you're like frustrated with how long a meeting is taking or what people are saying, stop. If you're in the car and someone's honking their horn because you're not going fast enough, stop. That's their problem. Let them have it. They can drive off with it. It doesn't have to affect you. And my favorite, I just experienced yesterday, I was on the phone with Spectrum for half an hour, and then I got disconnected. Extremely frustrating. Not much that I can do about it except call back, because whoever picks up the phone, she didn't know what I just went through, and it won't be helpful to me to be angry at her. So I just stop for a moment, breathed in, observed, okay, this is frustrating, but it's just a phone call with Spectrum. And then I proceeded, and that was very helpful, both to me getting back on the phone and not compounding that frustration, but also enabling me to speak politely to this poor Spectrum woman. And then the other tool is called R.E.A.L. And they often refer to it in mindfulness classes as an acronym for RAIN. But for me, when I'm charged and emotional, RAIN doesn't really resonate with me. So I've kind of adapted it to R.E.A.L. But it's very similar. But I can, when I'm charged, I go, oh, let me get R.E.A.L. And so R.E.A.L stands for recognizing, experiencing, acknowledging, and loving kindness. And again, this is for more charged situations. It takes a little bit more time because you really have to kind of concentrate, spend some time with it. But for recognizing, it's, again, first just understanding, what are you feeling? I am sad, I am frustrated, I am charged. And just stopping there. We don't have to get into the whole story of why and what led to it. Just identifying the feeling, I'm sad. In fact, you can just say, this is sadness. You don't necessarily have to appreciate it to yourself. You can just go, this is sadness. That's what this is. This is anger. So in recognizing it again, you can begin to move away from it, begin to have some distance, because there's the feeling itself and then there's the awareness of it. So once you move into the awareness mode, you can kind of create some distance and not be quite so reactive. So after the recognizing, there's experiencing, and often we feel emotions in our body. So I know for me, when I'm very agitated, I feel it in my stomach, and I'm not hungry, I can't eat, and I'm churning, and I feel it there. So that's where I go, and I experience, okay, oh, I see it here. And so bringing your attention to that, recognizing where you feel it. I mean, we know that both our mind influences our body and our body influences our mind. So often when we're meditating, I like to suggest, bring a smile to your countenance, because sometimes you see people and they're working kind of hard, but if they just bring a smile, it kind of lightens the whole thing. In fact, when you see anyone, if they smile at you and you smile at them, you already feel a sense of ease. So the same way with our body, if we can bring some awareness and ease to where we feel it in the body, feel some sense of grounding. Could it be in our feet? We move away from where we're feeling it the most and go to a place where we feel neutral, like our hands or our feet. So again, bringing a sense of ease and calm to that reactivity. And then acknowledging it. So that's the idea of allowing it to be there. You can't fight it. What you resist persists. And allowance doesn't really mean passivity. It doesn't mean dispassion. It doesn't mean like being a doormat. It means I acknowledge this pain, because in recognizing it, we can move through it. As I said, emotions really are quite transient. So if we acknowledge it, we understand it's there, again, it allows it to destigmatize it. And then we bring that loving kindness to it, to ourselves. We can do it really just putting our hand on our heart or giving ourselves a hug, but not bringing that judgmental inner critic mindset to it, because that just tends to compound things. And you get lost in the story and the blame and the guilt. And we just want to, again, just bring some loving kindness to it. And then probably we're not so charged, and we can begin to have some clarity around what actions we should take. What are the next steps? And there was obviously that situation in Central Park where that woman wasn't thinking, she was charged. She made some bad mistakes. I think if she had just done stop, might have been a better outcome. So we can use these tools in all situations. Stop for when it's the small, minor stuff. R.E.A.L when it's bigger and a little more charged. And certainly now in this pandemic where we don't have a lot of options other than to choose how we proceed, how we allow it to affect us. Can we bring that sense of, I'm feeling nervous, I'm feeling anxious, and then say, oh, well, that's a normal response to this situation. Many people are feeling it. And we can try and bring a sense of awareness to it so that it's not so stigmatizing. And then move through it. You don't have to push it away. You don't have to deny it. You don't have to hide from it. We just can acknowledge it. And then go, okay, that's what I'm feeling. It's okay. And know that things will pass and pandemic will be over and, we'll have new things to be anxious about. So as Eckhart Tolle says, life is not here to make you happy, because if that's the case, you'll be sorely disappointed. But life is here to challenge us. And there's a wonderful quote from a Nobel scientist and quantum physicist, Max Planck, and he says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So can we bring a change to that reactivity that allows us to proceed with a sense of clarity and wisdom that we know is within us? Does anyone have anything they want to share? Any incidents maybe they've come up with in the last week or two that they were emotionally charged and maybe a bit overwhelmed, or some situations where they found that they were able to bring mindfulness to the moment and had a better outcome? I'd love you guys to share. Thank you.